Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. Sandeep Shenoy of Pioneer Investcorp is with us now. Sandeep, good morning. Let's start with some numbers reaction. Your thoughts on Nestle and Titan?
Well, I think Titan has come out with a surprisingly good set of numbers. Of course, you can also say because rest of the peers are falling in the buy side. So obviously, operationally as well as sentimentally from investor side, this is one stock which will be finding its place under the sun. Not to say that its track record has been that bad. So I guess sometimes the last man standing literally creams the market, and that's what you are seeing it out here.
No, it's just that there was a slight disappointment in the top line compared to the poll that we did. And then it's a stock that has already, it was 300 rupees last January and now 1,000. But you still think that it has...
No, this kind of companies, once they have created a strong pipeline, Lata, of course, they will always fall victim to what we call as over-expectation. But the ability of the company to take this kind of over-expectation and slips on over-expectation and bounce back, I think for the last many years, the company has demonstrated that. So I don't think this is something for one to worry about, but one should be also mindful of the fact that in a 10-year period, this kind of companies sometimes exhibit 1.5 to 2 years of sideways movement, which could be painful, but on a longer term basis, I think the CAGR is very good for them.
What about some of these, NBFC companies
just that the market's open.
The pre-opening.
So pre-opening, it's actually the Nifty is starting 0.5% lower. I don't think it'll happen that way because the Sensex is up. It's a little confusing, but I just wanted to see if there will be any reaction to Titan and Asian Paints itself. The first rates on both those stocks, if we can...
Yeah, both are in the green actually. Titan and Asian Paints are both up about 2.5%. Ujjivan is a stock that's also moved up quite a bit in pre-opening.
Yeah, that's
very
10%.
Yeah,
locked on
10%,
circuit actually. Yeah, that's the max that you can have in pre-open. So I think, of course, that would be a stock of the day, but there are others also.
And Union Bank down 10%.
Yes. So yeah, so Union Bank under pressure as well. But of course, a couple of these other names. Zee Entertainment would be an interesting one this time because the ad revenue growth was good. But as we know, the costs have gone up for the company. So there's a bit of selling pressure there. We'll wait for these rates to settle because they're just the initial ticks coming in pre-opening. Sandeep, morning. I wanted to ask you about these NBFC companies. Ujjivan reported very good numbers. Even earlier, you had names like L&T Finance that did very well. You put more money to work here?
Well, I think if you look at this kind of companies, you are getting some kind of a separation. Some earlier companies which were erstwhile MFI, which morphed their business to become mainstream NBFCs, I think they have done a commendable job. They went through some kind of being out of the radar for most of the discerning investors, and they are finding their place under the sun. But I think right now, if you look, Sonia, I think the CV cycle may be slowly turning. So the erstwhile winners of the last NBFC re-rating zone could be slowly finding their place under the sun because they have got all the systems and processes in play. They have got market penetration, and I think the headwinds are slowly becoming tailwind. So there could be good options there also. But the last round, what we had seen, those NBFCs which had blazed their trail across the market cap league, they may not be the ones, especially the retail-facing ones, they may not be the ones who are going to outperform the markets right now.
Okay, it will be more the CV and the MFI guys, you think?
I think even MFI, and maybe if there are any focused two-wheeler players, I think one should be hunting for such players also.
Okay, Bharti Airtel is opening 1% lower, and of course Canara Bank 0.5% lower. Union, of course, is 8.5% lower.
Titan is 1,000.
Titan is 1,000, and will be interesting. Last time it topped out at 1,000, so can this time it take out the 1,000 mark and go higher. Fortis, by the way, is up another 3% now. 157 is what we have on Fortis. Sandeep, on Fortis, you reckon this is it now? And for those who bought in at 120, 130, should they take the money off here?
Well, I think this kind of troubled companies, whenever you see a financial investor taking in, it gives some kind of a concern. Of course, on a short-term basis, you may have had a bump up. But then if it was somebody like a Manipal taking over, probably it would have made more sense for a common investor to latch on and wait on to this company because you have a clear runway ahead. Right now, I think it is some bandaging for a hemorrhaging patient. Whether it's going to require surgery or not, we don't know. But I think for a lay investor, it makes sense to stay away from this kind of stories.
Actually, the rupee is opened pretty strong. Yeah. 67.12. Yesterday was, I think, 67.30 or 31. So it's 20 pies stronger rupee, or dollars cheaper by 20 pies. and that's because of two factors. One, that the crude price just rolled off a bit from that $78 mark. The dollar index has rolled back a little from that 93 to 92 point change, and US bond yields rolled back from 3% down to about 2.95. For all those details, Manisha Gupta joins us.
Thank you so much for that, Lata. Well, yes, we have seen some profit taking come in for crude oil prices, but that's majorly because the speculators have taken off some money in sense of profit taking. Also, there have been statements from Tehran saying that the US walking out of the multinational deal is not going to impact their exports too much, and that is what the market's really reading are into, because many of the other signatories on this deal haven't really come out and said that they would be walking out as well. Even now, markets would want to watch out on what happens in the next 180 days, whether or not the US is able to pursue or convince those other signatories to take a stand or not. So that is what has led to some bit of a consolidation coming in for the markets right now. But what you really also need to watch out for is the overnight missile attacks between Syria and Tehran, Israel, Iran, etc. is something that could be adding some premium to prices. Those are the details that the markets are still waiting at. But apart from that, the US EIA also has increased their crude outlook for 2018, not just for Brent and WTI, but for the crude products as well, and that perhaps could be supportive. Apart from that, it also is suggestive that you are looking at very strong global demand, and that would continue for the next couple of quarters as well, supporting the crude oil prices. So what we are seeing really is consolidation, some bit of a decline from the highs, but it would be buying on dips is what the markets would tell you in case of crude oil prices. When it comes to the metal space, it really has been quite mixed, but then we have been looking at strong Chinese data. The construction demand has been picking up, and there has been a decline in inventories for steel, iron ore, copper, etc. So all these three metals are trading in the positive. The only decline really has come in for aluminum, where we have seen profit taking continue. That one seems to be closing this week nearly 2% on the lower side.
All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for that. Well, let's get back to stocks, because some of these result reactions are the top gainers. Ashwini, I wanted to check with you how to trade these names. Okay, we'll go to Ashwini in a bit. But Mitesh, how do you trade some of these names? Titan, Asian Paints and Ujjivan. Would you move on anything today?
See, Ujjivan, I think numbers are very good, and I think the stock is opening very strong. I would be a buyer here in case we get some kind of dip after the early strong, strong opening. That apart, I think Titan is something which I would avoid for the time being. I think the stock is extremely overbought, and I'm not sure whether we are seeing a strong follow through over here. So from a trading point of view, I think I'll just wait it out unless until it starts getting past the 1,000 mark, which was the earlier high, and sustains beyond that.
Okay. Well, the other big story, of course, is the postpaid service launched by Jio, and Bharti Airtel has lost a little more of its sheen, 2.5%, 3% lower in opening trade. And let's see if Reliance is having any impact at this point in time. I don't think there is any impact on Reliance. Sandeep, I guess anyway you weren't a worshipper of telecom stocks.
Well, I think it's a dance of death, Lata, but I think the incumbents are going to have more pain than the challenger, because challenger has a deep balance sheet and multiple avenues of cash flow. So I guess you may get trading moves, but there isn't much going to happen here. It's going to be, as I said, in an extremely painful zone. And whenever there is a war, it's better to be watching it from the bylines rather than participate in it. So
what about the future group in that case? There is somebody with a big balance sheet who is attacking.
Well, I think, let's put it this way, I think I as a consumer would be far more happier than I as an investor, because it's literally, you can say, going to be a transfer of money from American pension funds and American companies to Indian consumers. So let's enjoy while the going is good and not try to figure out who is going to be the winner in it.
Okay, pre-open is settled now, 25 points higher on the Nifty and 42 higher on the Bank Nifty. So once again, there's a big difference between what the SGX Nifty is indicating and what the pre-open is indicating. Ashwini, 10,785.90 is something that you said we wouldn't have chased, but 25-point uptick on 10,740?
I think sideways, and since we are towards the middle of the range, kind of flat start. But if we get on either end, which means 10,700 or 10,800, then you should probably take the other side.
Okay. Has Adani Transmission bottomed out, Ashwini? I mean, today it's starting 3% higher. It did well yesterday as well. It has a new man at the helm, Anil Sardana. But anyway, stock-wise?
See, this is a very wild type of stock, so you can never say it has bottomed out, as you can't say with any of the Adani Group companies. But overall, since it's had downside from 248 right down to 170, and 170 is a strong support. So an excursion back to 225, 230 seems possible.
Is it late to get into Ujjivan now, Ashwini? I mean, it's rallied from 340 all the way to 450 over the last 3 months.
See, Ujjivan, it appears that microfinance is bottoming out. If we can get past, say, 420, that should be good levels to get into Ujjivan, but it's higher end of the range. We need to see whether the news is good enough to take 420, 425 out.
Oh yes, 8% higher in pre-open. Actually, the big question here, Sonia, since you asked, is, is it too late or is it actually a bit early here? Because it's from 550. It corrected also so quite a bit. But
actually,
there are other
many of these are very slow, good builders. You can't fault the management of these companies.
Yeah.
Ujjivan or Equitas, they came with a mission. So,
yes.
a Bandhan Bank.
And once again, this big problem in PSU banks,
they can get more play.
And there was this correction, and of course, some of these NBFCs after the recap, and that money is once again moving into some of these stocks. But I just want to point out a couple of more names in pre-open. That JP Infra has not been helped. In fact, another 5% lower is what we have on that stock. And Canara Bank is down about 3%. Ashwini, what would be your 9-10 call?
See, Canara Bank, that's a sell with a stop of 252, target of 238.
Okay, so would you only sell Canara Bank or would you sell any other stocks? Because, many of them, Allahabad, Dena, UCO are all coming out with their numbers as well today.
See, all sorts of NBFCs, particularly, Bajaj Finance, Capital First, India Bulls Housing, they should all be weak. And this 42-point gap up on Bank Nifty is not likely to get sustained. So possibly in the first 10 odd minutes, we'll know what to do here.
Okay, I just wanted to point out Ingersoll Rand, a very good set of numbers, and that stock is flying. But let's just listen in, if we can, to the emphasis management. Nitin Rakesh is speaking.
FY 2018 has been a breakout year for emphasis in terms of growth. Our efforts to leverage solution-led approach at scale is showing results. We have been able to partner with our clients in their digital transformation initiatives. In the quarter ended 31st March 2018, our overall net revenue grew 4.4% QOQ and 17.4% YOY in constant currency. On a reported basis, growth was 5% QOQ and 15.8% YOY. DXCHP revenue grew 8.3% QOQ and 29.5% YOY in constant currency. On a reported basis, growth was 9.2% QOQ and 28.1% YOY. Direct core revenue grew 2.1% sequentially and 14.8% YOY in constant currency. On a reported basis, growth was 2.9% QOQ and 13.2% YOY. Operating margin improved 130 basis points.
Okay, he's just reiterating the numbers, but more importantly, he says that FY18 was a breakout year for emphasis. 4 straight successive quarters of a revenue growth. Sandeep, any of these companies that you like? Because it's been a good quarter for them.
I think the focus will slowly shift to second-rung players in IT, Sonia. I think that's where you could have, maybe plus 20% CAGR coming out at least for next 3 to 4 years. Most of them went through very painful zone. Some of them even, I think, faced a question mark of their existence being threatened. But I think at the end of it, I think a couple of them have really demonstrated good numbers. And I think now even private equity-backed firms like this are also showing that they have deep management bench which can help them to tide over the changing landscape in the largest market, that is the US. So I guess an investor wanting to have a 3 to 5 year kind of a perspective and aiming for 18 to 20% CAGR, I think there are options abounding.
Okay, but only for the day I wanted from Ashwini, how would you play the IT index? Rupees started strong. Do you think it can be the leadership sector at all today?
That's for me.
Yes.
See, yesterday rupee was weak and IT went down. So there isn't a one-to-one correlation. These are strong stocks. At some point they'll bounce back. But possibly today, I think they should also remain subdued.
Okay. Well, the other stock to point out, I mean, evergreen stock, but HDFC Bank will soon see will eventually see a change of guard. The management said that at the analyst call on Wednesday. So the hunt has started. Sandeep?
I think a company with this kind of operational structure, I think it's okay. It had an iconic CEO, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Like it's like how HDFC has been growing. HDFC Main has been growing for the last 20 years. I think HDFC Bank itself also can be growing for the next 20 years because it's also the systems and processes which are separating this bank away from others rather than just iconic leadership. So I guess it's not going to make much of a difference here.
Okay. Yeah, I remember one of his arch rivals saying that that is an SOP bank. I said, I can put my mother there and nothing will go wrong. It's an SOP bank.
Okay. Well, just a couple of more stocks to focus on before the market opening. 45 seconds to go. Apollo Tyres reported a good set of numbers. That's up in the green. Quick Heal was not too bad. That's up in the green as well. And Ingersoll Rand, 600 basis points improvement in margins. Do you like Apollo Tyres, Sandeep?
Well, I think in this kind of a zone where right now the NR prices are behaving more like stock prices, I think one has to be a bit careful because the like commodity prices are now exhibiting trends of becoming buoyant and starting to show froth. So in this kind of a situation, one has to be very, very careful in sectors where commodity is going to be a key input.
Okay, rubber so far has not been that fiery, but you never know. Actually, we have only a few minutes left for start of trading, but maybe I